For our viewers, this is Steve Struggle with Dr. Abraheim. Today, 28 March 2026. Welcome, Abraheim. How are you?
Oh, recovering from a bad night, but I'm very pleased to hear that the Ansar Allah Houthis in Yemen have opened up a third front against the what is actually a Zionist state, and its combined attack with the United States empire against Iran. And here we go. This is not the big one, as Trump has referred to. I think he means all-out nuclear war with Iran and with all of its allies, including China and Russia. But using terminology like that, I think he's referring to the option of using a nuclear weapon to destroy the underground facilities of production of missiles and launchers that Iran has safely stashed away inside a mountain or various mountains. So if he's talking like that, Trump is opening up the possibility of using a nuclear strike in order to get to the underground facilities there. Ugh, this is rather insane, isn't it?
The whole situation is over the top, but my perspective is since Israel has attacked the Iranian nuclear facility, why not just keep attacking it? Because they may if they want to just have a terror attack, just continue to bomb that nuclear facility and release radiation all around Iran and its neighbors. No one's gonna bring Israel to court. No one's gonna charge them with any crimes. They pretty much do what they want to do. I see
Yeah,
what you're saying, though, that the U.S. may want to open up another front of destruction by dropping a nuclear weapon, but it just seems that um, Ansar Allah is the only people stepping up to fight right now.
yeah. Well, I mean, they are bombing nuclear reactors, and I have some video reports here
Good.
to confirm that. But that's not going to stop Iranian missiles, ballistic missiles, being dropped on the U.S. military bases and on the political and military targets within Israel. So it still leaves open the option that they may go for tactical nuclear weapons to deal with the Iranian missiles because they're rationing their defense missiles now. The interceptor missiles in Israel are being rationed now, which means they're coming close to exhausting their supply. And the new missiles are not being produced at any quick rate, even though they've allocated the monies to do so, another $200 billion for this war. So that's a possibility, but we should cover, what they've already started to do in terms of attacking nuclear reactors here now. I can
Right.
share those videos with you.
And I want our listeners to know that, and viewers to know the reason we come across this is because we're frequently scanning the internet and scanning news for updates. In many of our countries, the news is being censored. So we really are relying on resistance news media, even from the most liberal to the most left or the most opposed to the U.S. war. It's not coming from NBC. It's not coming from Axios. It's not coming from The Hill. It's not coming from NPR. You might catch something in The Guardian. You might. But basically, we have to research these stories, and that's how we come across them. So when you research stories, you should reach out to us and share your stories with us so we can know.
Here we go to my Facebook page. Okay, first of all, here we have this is Nablus, the city that I
Right.
lived in, West Bank. Mhm. So the city of Nablus has been hit. A particular home there has been hit. The house of Al-Akkad. The city of Nablus is built on the sides of two mountains that are surrounding the city. And that antenna at the top there that you see on the top of the mountain, that's a military, a Zionist military outpost that is spying on all communications in the city itself. That tower there. Okay, next. Uh-huh. Oh, yes, I have this video here.
That gentleman does very good work. Yes. I came across him 2 nights ago while searching Telegram.
World according to God.
Oh, this is a video that you sent me that describes the first attack on a nuclear reactor. Have a look at this.
Gaza. Gaza is only the start. The New World Order is one where the weak are obliterated by the strong. The rule of law does not exist. Genocide is an instrument of control, and barbarism is triumphant.
That's
Written by
right.
Chris Hedges for the Chris Hedges Report, chrishedges.substack.com. Read by Eunice Wong. The war on Iran and the obliteration of Gaza is the beginning. Welcome to the New World Order, the age of technologically advanced barbarism. There are no rules for the strong, only for the weak. Covering the decay. Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it.
Oh, publicity. Okay, here we go.
A Lubyanka on the Thames. Our courts are no better. Our Department of Justice is a vengeance machine. Masked armed goons flood the streets of the United States and murder civilians, including citizens. The ruling mandarins are spending billions to convert warehouses into detention centers and concentration camps. They insist they will only house the undocumented, the criminals. But our global ruling class lies like it breathes.
Had to go.
I
Yep.
don't see the report on the nuclear reactor hit here.
Well, that's Chris Hedges.
Okay, so this is not the video on the nuclear reactor hit.
No, no.
Okay, so here, uh,
Well, no, that should be according to the caption. That is, it should be there. Yeah.
uh, okay, Israel and the US have bombed 600 schools and 290 health facilities in Iran.
Remember, Iran has universal health coverage, so this is being done to make sure that people cannot be healed and to degrade the social network and social structure. That's
Uh,
why they're doing that, because since they have whatever the society has been developed by the governing bodies, the United States wants to destroy it. And
yeah.
I make no differentiation between the United States and Israel. They are one armed faction. And that's what made this war a little different, because you actually have a united front of two nations against one nation.
Yeah.
And what you had is not just the United States, not just Israel, both. And those are two nations, okay,
Yeah.
even though they're coordinated, so
Yeah.
that's why it's important that the Houthis or someone else, in my view, get involved militarily to
Oh,
try to
yeah.
even the score as far as the country.
Yeah.
It really needs to be Russia or China, but they're limiting their support to other methods. So Iran has to fight the military fight alone in the sense of its its army, its military apparatus.
Yeah.
If another country like China um, and the Houthis again will fight the same type of fight that Iran is fighting. So you have two asymmetric warriors fighting the United States and Israel right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Well, the United States and Israel formed a counter-revolutionary fascist united front. And Iran is leading a revolutionary united front now on three fronts, four, including Iraq, where the Iran Revolutionary Guard has a lot of local support. Did you hear about the attempted assassination of the New York Palestinian organizer Nurdin Kiswani? So this was stopped. This was revealed actually by the FBI even, which couldn't allow this to happen. It would have been too much of a
Who was
provocation.
who was planning it? Who were the planners? Did they arrest him?
Yes, the JDL, Jewish Defense League, so-called,
JDL, huh? Okay, so they're back
Y-
to their old terrorist roots.
yeah,
Kahanist.
they have a new faction called the JDL 631. I don't know why. Uh, but JDL was a Kahani
Yeah,
inspired
I know. Yeah,
organization
led
that
by Kahani. Yeah.
that led to the 1994 massacre in the Ibrahimi Mosque, uh, in English, Abraham Mosque in Hebron, Al Khalil, in which 27 or 29 Muslims were killed by this one deranged New Yorker who went there as a Zionist and opened fire on all the people in the mosque who came there. And they revere Abraham as a prophet, as Islamic prophet as well. And yet they were killed. So that's the JDL. And now they have been stopped. Now here we go. Let's open this up. This describes the most recent attack on a second nuclear reactor.
I thought the Rangers hadn't won.
This is a report put together by
If your drone footage still looks flat or
Mahmoud Odi. He does very good reports, because he collects the information from the Arabic, Hebrew, and English media. Okay, here we go.
from completely of Israel, chances are they are. I mean, they don't have any sort of meetings on their own unless there are Israelis with them. Netanyahu pushed Trump into this war despite heavy criticism and mounting criticism and resignations, and everything being so clear is still there. But they're also preparing. They're preparing to send 10,000 troops as an additional deployment. And also, we have warnings coming from leaders in the EU saying that an escalation is about to happen, which signals that they had some sort of intel, some sort of information that things are going to escalate further, which puts all of Donald Trump's talk in the bin. Doesn't really make any sort of sense having all of these statements towards Iran and simultaneously Israel is having these attacks. And the a differentiation between Israel and the United States. That's something that many people like to fall into this trap of differentiating between the Epstein regime and the Zionist regime. The Epstein regime is the Zionist regime, and the Zionist regime is the Epstein regime. Same people, same aim, same everything. That's what we have here. Whether someone has an upper hand, someone is controlling the other side, that doesn't really matter.
That's right.
We also are hearing about certain statements coming in now of Ansarullah. You know, as we speak, some statements are being published, so there's likelihood of them participating in this war, but I still haven't been able to confirm whether that was the actual statement or not.
It's confirmed.
And Iran is also attacking with severe destruction inside of the occupied territories. And we'll begin with this here. Okay, so Israel targeted Iraq. What are they saying about this attack? And then we'll go through all of the other important bits of information. The IDF confirms that it bombed a heavy water reactor. It's a key infrastructure, according to them, for producing plutonium for nuclear weapons, after Iran worked to restore the site. They bombed the partially built complex, officially known as the Khondab Heavy Water Research Reactor, in central Iran during the June 2025 war. Repeated reconstruction attempts by the Iranian government, or terror regime as they call them, the Zionist pigs call Iran terror regime, the child-killing bastard state, right? Calling Iran a terror regime. The Zionist imposters who came from all across the world dare to call the Islamic Republic of Iran the terror regime. The child murderers, people who they abuse, torture toddlers and infants. These people, sick bunch they are. Anyway, later identified according to the Zionist bastards here. But anyway, the main thing is, what is Iran going to do about this? I mean, Iran is going to be hammering the living daylight out of them after this attack. But these arrogant Zionists, they think that they can get away with everything. Iran issued multiple statements, and we heard clarity from Iran, and harsh statements as well, on how they're going to be punishing the Zionist child killers after this attack. Firstly, there were certain maps being published on some of the accounts linked to Iran, including evacuation notices. Now, mind you, there are several here, all right? Multiple locations in, well, Bahrain, this one is Kuwait, Saudi, Qatar, and two others. One of them was in the UAE, right? And one of them is in Israel. Now, the Iranian equation here is no longer tit for tat, no longer eye for an eye. They previously said eye for an eye. That's no longer.
This is video promotion of war games. It's incredible how youth are being conditioned to
Yeah, they really are. It's not good.
find a war to be an exciting adventure. Here it is, the real war.
Right.
Now, what's coming up now is a
person
Yemen.
Ansarullah in Yemen had to say today, after all of these escalations happening and talks about, many other countries potentially participating in the war of aggression against Iran, and what will Yemen do? Let's have a listen to him and what he had to say.
بيان صادر عن القوات المسلحة اليمنية بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قال تعالى: إن الله يحب الذين يقاتلون في سبيله صفا كأنهم بنيان مرصوص. صدق الله العظيم. انطلاقا من مسؤوليتنا الدينية والأخلاقية، وأمام ما يحدث من العدوان الغاشم للعدو الأمريكي والإسرائيلي والذي يستهدف الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران ومحور الجهاد والمقاومة وأمتنا الإسلامية كافة لإقامة ما يسمى إسرائيل الكبرى، وتحت عنوان تغيير الشرق الأوسط، وفي إطار حق أمتنا المشروع في التصدي للمخطط الصهيوني ومنفذيه أمريكا وإسرائيل، وتأكيدا على أهمية تعاون شعوب ودول المنطقة في الموقف الحق في التصدي للعدوان الأمريكي الإسرائيلي والمخطط الصهيوني، والسعي لإلحاق هزيمة كبرى بهم، واستنادا إلى موقف شعبنا اليمني الإسلامي المبدئي مع أمتنا الإسلامية وتجاه أي عدوان أمريكي إسرائيلي على أي بلد مسلم، وفي ظل استمرار العدو الأمريكي والإسرائيلي في العدوان على الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران وعلى فلسطين وغزة والعراق ولبنان تنفيذا للمخطط الصهيوني الذي يهدد كل الأمة، فإن القوات المسلحة اليمنية وحرصا منها على استقرار أمن المنطقة ووقف العدوان فإنها تؤكد على الآتي: أولا، ضرورة الاستجابة الفورية من العدو الأمريكي والإسرائيلي للمساعي الدولية الدبلوماسية لوقف العدوان على إيران وبلدان المحور باعتباره عدوانا جائرا ظالما غير مبرر يضر بالاستقرار والأمن على المستوى العالمي والإقليمي ويضر بالاقتصاد العالمي. ثانيا، ضرورة التوقف الفوري عن العدوان على البلدان المسلمة في فلسطين ولبنان وإيران والعراق ووقف الحصار الجائر على اليمن. ثالثا، ضرورة تنفيذ اتفاق غزة والوفاء بالالتزامات التي تضمنها الاتفاق في الاستحقاقات الإنسانية والاستحقاقات المشروعة للشعب الفلسطيني. رابعا، نؤكد أن أيدينا على الزناد للتدخل العسكري المباشر في أي من الحالات الآتية: انضمام أي تحالفات أخرى مع أمريكا وإسرائيل ضد الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران ومحور الجهاد والمقاومة، استخدام البحر الأحمر لتنفيذ عمليات عدائية من قبل أمريكا وإسرائيل ضد الجمهورية الإسلامية في إيران وضد أي بلد مسلم فلن نسمح بذلك، استمرار التصعيد ضد الجمهورية الإسلامية ومحور الجهاد والمقاومة وبما يقتضيه مسرح العمليات العسكرية. خامسا، تحذر القوات المسلحة اليمنية من أي إجراءات ظالمة تهدف لتشديد الحصار على الشعب اليمني. ختاما، نؤكد أن عملياتنا العسكرية تستهدف العدو الإسرائيلي والأمريكي لإفشال المخطط الصهيوني ولا تستهدف أي شعب مسلم. والله حسبنا ونعم الوكيل، نعم المولى ونعم النصير. عاش اليمن حرا عزيزا مستقلا، والنصر لليمن ولكل أحرار الأمة. صنعاء 8 شوال 1447 للهجرة، الموافق 27 مارس 2026، صادر عن القوات المسلحة اليمنية.
So what I understand here from the statement of the spoke.
Okay. So that's now it's notable that Lebanon was mentioned here in the Yemeni statement. And in Lebanon, not only has the Zionist military ordered the evacuation of the Lebanese population south of the Litani River, but now they're ordering the evacuation of all Lebanese, from an additional territory north of the Litani River and south of another river there, which is halfway to Beirut. So that's an additional 14% of Lebanese territory, together with the 10% already occupied So there's about like a quarter of Lebanon is being occupied by the Zionist military now. And they probably expect that they'll be able to continue the occupation, maintain their occupation, and then start setting up colonies in the territories, from Israelis who are looking to get some free housing and subsidies in order to live in relative comfort. Although most of the people living in northern Israel, that is 67 Israel, are leaving the villages around next to the border with Lebanon. And there's about 80,000 or 100,000 Israeli citizens who have left that region there and are now refugees elsewhere, much like the Lebanese are the refugees, escaping from the military occupation of the southern Lebanon there. So Lebanon is very important to have been mentioned there by Ansar Allah in Yemen. And they have begun already by launching ballistic missiles against the targets, military targets, presumably, inside of the Zionist state. And they haven't escalated yet to taking on the traffic in the Bar al-Mandam Strait, leading to the Red Sea and the Suez Canal. But that is the next escalation step that could be taken if the United States and Israel do not cease and desist. So this is now a war with four fronts, with Yemen, with the Hezbollah in Lebanon, with the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps in Iraq, and with Iran itself. So this is a four-front war, and it is a war that Iran is not losing, and Iran has no compulsion to enter into negotiations with the United States. In fact, they're just listening to what the United States has to offer and replying that, no, that doesn't suit us at all. We require you to stop the war, that is to stop attacking Iran, and then they will consider what they will do. And they're not even agreeing to end their war on U.S. forces and on the Zionist military, even if the military assault on Iran has ceased, because they require that all the U.S. military bases leave the area of Western Orient and not come back. This is their condition for ensuring that they will not be attacked again. And the United States is nowhere near agreeing to do so. So this war will continue, notwithstanding whatever the United States decides it's going to do. So that's an important lesson there. In terms of Iran and its resilience, although the first layer and the second layer of Iranian leadership has been taken out, this has not deterred, the military response of Iran. In fact, it has increased the military response that Iran has to offer. Excuse me, because Iran was prepared for such a scenario, and the military response of Iran has been planned beforehand and is engaged and will not stop. Because, if there's no leadership left, to call a halt, to the pre-plan of the military strategy of Iran, then that pre-planned, military strategy will continue. So now it is the Iranian Revolutionary Guard that is in control of the military response. And they have no higher political leadership that is, in a position to be able to tell them to stop. So the pre-planned military response continues and is effective, and is becoming more effective as the Zionist state is running short of interceptor missiles. So, but lacking a political leadership in Iran, as I've noted to you previously, means that they cannot respond in a political way, which is lacking. And although Lebanon is mentioned by as a necessary uh, addition to the Iranian demands for cease and desist order on the United States and the Zionist military to stop attacking Iran. They have also included Lebanon now, and they're calling for uh, any ceasefire with those fascist forces must cease with respect to Lebanon, in addition to the attacks on Iran. However, there's no mention of Gaza or Palestine. There's no mention of the fact that the Zionist forces have not withdrawn completely from Gaza, as it was agreed to in the ceasefire agreement there. And in fact, half of Gaza is still occupied, and the food provisions that are waiting at the crossing points are still not allowed to come in. The United Nations Refugee Relief Organization has all of the provisions waiting there in the trucks to cross over into Gaza, but only 150 trucks are allowed in. The additional trucks that are allowed in are only for commercial vehicles that are willing to sell foodstuffs to the impoverished Gazan Palestinian population. They cannot afford to even buy this foodstuffs, which are being sold at an inflated price. And so the free humanitarian aid is only being allowed in at 150 trucks a day, even though it was promised that 600 such trucks would be allowed into Gaza to provide the population with the necessary provisions for the sustenance of life. So, Iran is not conditioned the end of the war upon the implementation of the ceasefire agreement in Gaza, which it should do. I mean, it's implied. I mean, perhaps they assume so, but they haven't mentioned it. And it is necessary to do so in order to begin the re-education of the Israeli population so that they will realize that they're being led into a dead end by their government. Even though the degree of popular support amongst the Israelis and Jewish Israeli population has declined from 92% to like 81%. Nonetheless, they're still being fed, all the propaganda, and they have no idea what Israel has begun for them. And even though the civilian population is not being targeted, and there's relatively few Israelis who have been killed in the bombardments, most of the damage being done to the Israeli civilian population is being done by the interceptor missiles coming from Israel itself, which explode, of course, but all the debris comes down, the shrapnel comes down and lands on civilian areas. And so the civilians, are being led to believe, that this is the fault of Iran, when actually it is the fault of the Israeli interceptor missiles, provided conveniently by the United States of America, which couldn't care less, what happens to the Israeli civilian population, actually. So that's an important point that has to be made, that Gaza has to be brought into this dialogue, so-called dialogue, and it has to be picked up by Iran when they develop more of a political leadership and not just a military leadership that is conducting the response to the attacks on Iran by the United States and by the Zionist state. So that's an important point I wanted to raise with you. So
let's summarize that quickly. So what you're saying is at this point, politically, you're calling for Iran to make some adjustments to its political line and its political orientation towards the West Bank, correct?
yes. It's concerned primarily by the attacks on Iran, but it hasn't taken up the necessary struggle of the Gazan people. Perhaps it's because Iran feels betrayed by Hamas because, Hamas has come out with a statement,
Yes.
probably, under pressure from Qatar. And Hamas has actually denounced Iran for attacking the U.S. military bases in the other Gulf,
Yes.
Arab countries, because Hamas, is beholden to Qatar, which hosts, an American military base which attacked Iran. And so, Hamas has sort of, distanced itself from Iran as a result. And so Iran doesn't mention, Gaza because of Hamas, but Hamas is, it's just Hamas. It's not speaking, on behalf of the Gazan population itself. It's just speaking on its own behalf, because they are beholden to Qatar, which provides it with something like $300 million a year to finance its civil service and social services in Gaza, etc. And so Hamas is entirely dependent upon Qatar, unfortunately.
And doesn't Qatar also produce Al Jazeera News?
Yes, that's right. Al Jazeera has not mentioned Gaza very much nowadays, and it also is nuanced its presentations by supporting Qatar rather than Iran. And also, Al Jazeera has taken a reactionary position with respect to the war in eastern Ukraine, um, because Qatar is supporting basically the United States position there, and they are, feeding all sorts of propaganda about civilian casualties in Ukraine without mentioning the Russians in eastern Ukraine who are dying under the bombardments of the anti-civilian attacks conducted by the Kiev regime of Zelensky. Now, there's some important legal information that I've come across
Oh
with
yeah,
respect to the Ukraine that I should mention to you here.
please
And that
do.
is, what are the frontiers of Ukraine? What is Ukraine? Now, under the old confederation, under the USSR, the Ukraine was registered as uh, an autonomous uh, republic, Ukrainian republic, with the borders set by Lenin and Khrushchev a long time ago. Okay, so Lenin recognized the Ukrainian nation and wanted to recognize it as a constituent of the USSR, but with its own autonomous republic status as Ukraine. Now, Khrushchev comes along and says to Lenin, like, why not include the provinces next to the Ukraine, which are Russian speaking, but in geopolitical terms, would be useful to include in a Ukrainian Soviet Republic because it would provide, further reason for the Ukrainians to support the Red Army resistance against the White Army's invasion of the Ukraine, seeking to push through towards Moscow and overturn the Bolshevik Revolution with the various white armies, Denikin, etc. So that was the border set by the USSR as a Ukrainian Soviet Republic. However, when Ukraine became separatist and decided that it wanted to become independent of and in opposition to the Russian Confederation, even that's called a Russian Federation now. Well, they lost the status of the borders that they had under the Ukrainian Soviet Republic, which included the eastern provinces there of Russian-speaking peoples. So the only and even though and those borders were only registered, as being legal under the Soviet Confederation of Republics. When they left they lost those borders. They were no longer the legal borders of Ukraine, which became separatist and no longer a Soviet republic. Okay, so even though, and those borders were not registered with the United Nations as being legally recognized borders either. The only borders recognized as Ukraine are by demographic, Ukrainian-speaking peoples, which is to be respected as a Ukrainian nation and an independent state, recognized as such by legal authorities, including the United Nations. But that doesn't give legal authorization to include and invade and bombard the eastern Russian-speaking provinces. So the war there of the special military occupation has a legal justification to it that is not mentioned by anybody, but which I found it necessary to mention here with you. So that's another war scene that we can bring some insight to. And now, what prospects can we talk about, Steve? What do we expect, is going to be happening? What perspective do you have on this?
Well, I do a lot of reading, and at this point, Abraham, first of all, I hope that you're able to write what you just shared with our viewers and put it somewhere on Substack or somewhere on the internet where people can read it, because you've made some very profound points that have not been part of the political discussion
Yeah,
uh, previously. Um, Perspective, okay. More needs to be done to develop a worldwide anti-war movement. I think that too many of the liberals who don't want war will not support Iran. They just don't want war.
yeah,
And that's not good enough,
yeah,
in my view. So we have a problem. We have a challenge there. There are demonstrations today across the United States. No King's Day. I do plan to attend one or two. And I am sure we will have this division. The Palestinian movement does not come out of these demonstrations because, in their view, it is controlled by the Zionists. And we'll talk about that too. But one, we have to link the West Bank, Gaza, and Iran into one front of anti-imperialism and self-determination.
yeah,
And you have brought that to our attention, that we
yeah,
have to expand our approach to the war, because the same tactics that were being used in Gaza and the same tactics that are being used currently in the West Bank are simply being applied differently to Iran, because Iran is a developed first world nation. It is not a second world nation. It is not a third world nation. It's a first world nation. So I perceive that as the approach we should take, and I appreciate your bringing the lead on this. Within the imperialist camps, the Israeli imperialist camp, the U.S. imperialist camp, I'm not sure what's going to happen. Some people say Netanyahu is dead. Some people say Trump has been lying for a week about these negotiations that are going on. The reason I'm saying he's lying because there's no evidence of it. If you want to prove a point, you should I'm gonna say something here. Iran says it has U.S. prisoners. Okay, it didn't show the prisoners. If not, shut up. I'm not telling you to shut up, but show the prisoners. Here are the prisoners. Here are the names, serial numbers. Show the prisoners. You haven't shown any. The U.S. says that they are, or if they show them, they haven't reached our media. The U.S. said they've been having negotiations. Where are the pictures? Who was negotiating with whom? So I think there's a lot of horse trading going on with the U.S., India, Pakistan, UAE groupings. I don't see the war ending anytime soon. But I don't get a sense that I don't get a sense that we're being told a strategy of it. I think the imperialists have a strategy and they're carrying it out. Or they're developing one, they're carrying it out.
What about the
Uh,
Marines? Do you think they're going to send in troops,
well,
boots on
there
the
are
ground?
troops on the way. There are troops on the way.
Yeah,
Um, I don't think they're sending them there to sit in a boat. No, no. But they didn't send the troops into Venezuela either. They had
yeah,
troops on the way, and they never entered Venezuela. So, that doesn't mean they're going to be deployed. If Venezuela is an example, the troops don't have to be deployed; they're sent there.
uh,
Um, I if Trump wants to do that, that will change the entire war.
yeah,
It will then become a war, not only of aggression, but war of occupation.
yeah,
That changes the entire nature of the war.
yeah,
And the I mentioned to you, I think in a discussion, you or another friend, that since the other video that we did not show, which we need to promote in some way, about the attack on the other Iranian nuclear facility, and it mentioned that this facility is a Russian-owned or Russian-built facility. And
yeah,
according to the commentator, Russia has allegedly made statements that if someone attacks that, they're attacking Russia. Well, if that's the truth, then Russia has been attacked by Israel,
yeah,
and we know politically Russia tiptoes around Israel. They
yeah,
do. They do. Um, so for Iran's military supporters, if they're not going to put boots on the ground or engage the U.S. in uh, air missile attacks or air to surface missile war, they're going to have to do something, or I would encourage them to solidify their support to help rebuild damaged facilities, to provide care for the dead and the injured, provide medical support from China and Russia, to provide medical support for the damage. I don't know if the Cuban doctors can get there, but that'll be a good experience for them.
mm,
I think their experience has more been in set not in non-military environments. So it will be a good place for the Cubans to show up if they can get there.
mm,
Because they are very good doctors, but so are the Russians and so are the Chinese, and they're a lot closer than Cuban doctors.
yeah,
So they need some help. Um, They might be able to help in rebuilding right now. The war is going on, but provide support to replace whatever infrastructure has been destroyed, to provide temporary support in the same way that the U.S. bombs Russian um, sites in Russia and in the Donbass. I think we need some more upfront support for the Iranian infrastructure and people that have been killed and destroyed.
mm,
I think so. I think we need to just you ask me what should happen, but if there's no anti-war movement and solidarity or global movement, we're seeing movements in the United States, maybe in England. We've seen uprisings in the Arab world, but we need more.
yeah. The
We and I think your analysis needs to be discussed. Link the Iran attack, link it to Gaza, link it to the West Bank. And I think that's if we see it like that, we have a more holistic globalist view of what's really going on.
yeah, yeah. Okay, what I can do is, we can get a transcript from Substack or YouTube, and I can put it into the description for the video, and also put it up on academia.edu as well as a permanent file. So the transcription of this video can be made immediately. There is another video I'd like to do with you, Steve, on another occasion.
Sure.
That will do a critique of the various arguments made about the Zionist state and the war in Gaza. I think that there's a number of arguments that are being used by the anti-war movement that are mistaken, if not false. And I'd like to correct those arguments and provide, the suitable arguments for contesting politically the Zionist ideology, because that has not been taken on adequately, by the anti-war movement, because they don't even know what Zionism is, So that's a whole discussion that I'd like to advise our listeners, that is upcoming and is necessary to conduct. And so we can end the video for today.
Okay.
And look forward, to a further discussion that is not found anywhere else.
Sounds good. Let's make plans right away to do that.
Okay.